Senate is about Nigeria and Nigerians.
The truth is that time has come for us to start growing our local manufacturers, our local contractors.
Senate advocates protection for local meter manufacturers against foreign competitors.
It's not their fault that they are not employed early in life.
And Senate denounces age as a precondition for employment of graduates in Nigeria. Hello and welcome to Inside the Senate. The first set of bills since the inception of the 10th Senate scaled first reading last week. Various motions calling for action to arrest the menace of different types of environmental hazards in Nigeria also dominated plenary last week. We have reports on this in this episode of Inside the Senate. Other activities of the Senate include calls for investigation into the alleged killing of a 2-year-old boy in Delta State by officers of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, as well as the alleged misuse of arms by officers of the Nigerian Custom Service in Katsina State. Details of these and other activities make up our package this week. I am Hussaina Amina Aboki. Don't go away.
We are fighting for this democracy. This country will definitely improve in terms of development and progress.
Nigerians deserve better living.
What is the team and the legislature, they are going to put in their best for a better Nigeria.
Thanks for joining us. The Senate on Thursday, the 20th of July 2023, held a closed-door session at the end of which it announced the constitution of an ad hoc committee to look into the security of the Nigerian Senate. The first set of bills of the 10th Senate since its inauguration was presented for first reading on Thursday, the 20th of July 2023. Most of them focused on amendments as well as repeal and reenactment of existing bills. Amongst them are Nigerian Maritime Zone Act, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar. Coastal and Inland Shipping Cabotage Act, Amendment Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Orji Uzo Kalu. Environmental Impact Assessment Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Muhammad Tahir Munguno. Development Planning and Project Continuity Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Barrow Jibrin. Defense Industry Corporation of Nigeria Act, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Bamidele Opeyemi. Others are Bitumen Development Commission Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Jimo Ibrahim. Constituency Special Projects Budgetary Provision Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Hussaini Babangida Uba. Nigerian Railway Corporation Act, Amendment Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Solomon Olamilekon. Dishonored Checks, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Karimi Sunday Steve. Nigerian Content in Programs, Contracts, Science Engineering, Technology and Innovation Establishment Bill 2023, sponsored by Senator Sani Musa.
The Senate.
On motions, Senator Victor Ume drew the attention of the Senate to the urgent need to protect local meter manufacturers in the ongoing National Mass Metering Program of the federal government, a project to be funded with a World Bank loan of $155 million. The sponsor raised fears that the bidding criteria for the program, which can only be satisfied by foreign companies, has totally marginalized and eliminated the participation of 35 local manufacturers.
If the bidding process continues as it is, the outcome would be disastrous to members of the Association of Meter Manufacturers of Nigeria who have invested billions of naira in the sector and currently employs 10,000 workers directly and more than 30,000 workers indirectly.
The truth is that time has come for us to start growing our local manufacturers, our local contractors. All across, we take loans from China, we take from the World Bank, we take from everywhere, and then they insist that we must use their contractors and their manufacturers. That does not help us to grow.
After several comments, the following resolutions were adopted. urged the federal government to suspend the Transmission Company of Nigeria (TCN) tender for World Bank-funded NMMP Phase 2 in order to undertake comprehensive review of the procurement criteria to prioritize local manufacturing and assembly in line with local content policy. Let's take a break from chamber proceedings to open our notebook. Do stand by for our topic of the week.
Nigeria operates the two-tier type of legislature known as the bicameral legislature, comprising the Senate and House of Representatives. It was taken after the British parliamentary system, where the two chambers are referred to as the House of Lords and the House of Commons, or the Americans, where they are called the Senate and the House of Representatives. These chambers are referred to as the National Assembly at the national level. At the state level, however, only one legislative institution, the State House of Assembly, is operated. These legislative institutions perform the function of lawmaking and oversighting the executive, among other things.
Welcome back. Several motions aimed at addressing the plight of Nigerians were considered by the Senate last week. Let's take a report on this alongside other matters from our studio.
My motion is on the age requirement.
One of the motions was sponsored by Senator Abba Moro, and it was titled Age Requirement Precondition for Employment in Nigeria, Urgent Need for Intervention.
Pathetic that a graduate in Nigeria who could not get a job upon graduation and decided to go back to school with the hope that a higher qualification vis-a-vis a second or master's degree could give him a better employment opportunity is thrown into a career paradox when upon completion of his master's degree, he comes out to find that he is now above the age of employment.
Opinions on the motion were divergent.
We can appeal to government agencies, please don't discriminate. But in terms of general application, the law with regard to employment age is already in our statute.
So in essence, you are opposed to this motion?
I am opposed to this motion with profound respect.
You should not be discriminated against because you are 35, you are not 25, you will not be employed. No, we should advise, even we are going to start with MDAs, that people should be given the employment opportunity, because it is not their fault that they are not employed early in life. We should continually interrogate and advise against such practices.
One of the resolutions adopted is to urge the Federal Ministry of Labour to immediately draw up policies that relate to equality of opportunity and treatment in access to employment at all levels. Motions on the collapse of infrastructure in Nigeria were also moved same day. One of them, titled Collapse of Roads Infrastructure in Nigeria, was sponsored by the Deputy Senate President on behalf of all the senators.
The collapse of the road infrastructure, or the poor state of the road infrastructure, has virtually cut off many parts of Nigeria, with attendant negative impact on trade and commerce. The poor state has led to a decline in agricultural activities, adversely affecting the movement of agricultural produce from rural area and across the country.
Senators contributed in favor of the motion.
If these roads are fixed, it will also boost the economies of many states, because most of these roads, aside from transporting people to their various communities, they are used to transport goods and services to the various parts of this country, and that will boost the economy of those states and also help our transporters and those that are involved in businesses that has to do with transportation.
The state of our roads all over the country is in a deplorable situation, and as such, it will not be out of place that all of us seated here are in support of this motion.
One resolution was adopted. It is to set up an ad hoc committee to come up with a compendium of all the affected federal roads and erosion sites across the country, either awarded but abandoned by contractors or have not been awarded at all, to be forwarded to the executive arm of government for urgent implementation.
Lane of the affected roads
Similar motions were moved on Tuesday, the 18th of July 2023. One of them was on the urgent need to control erosion ravaging Onitsha-Oba section of the Onitsha-Owerri Federal Highway in Anambra State. Sponsored by Senator Victor Ume, he stated that the road has been left in a dilapidated situation despite being the gateway to business activities between the western, southeast and south-south states of Nigeria.
One lane of the affected road has been cut off completely by the gully erosion at the Oba Junction, with the second lane under serious threat of imminent collapse, while the buildings and factories within the vicinity are on the verge of collapsing into the gully.
The government must take this as a serious challenge. During this rainy season, over the next couple of weeks, families will be asleep in their homes, and we've heard horrible tales of families being washed away during heavy rainfall.
We may have to do a holistic approach to pick the different sites that are most affected and collate them and bring them to the attention of the authorities.
Mr. President, note that the peculiar nature of the topography...
There was also a motion on the urgent need for erosion control in Edo South Senatorial District to save lives and properties, sponsored by Senator Monday of Pebble, who gave highlights of the losses of lives caused by the menace.
In June, 2 persons died after being swept away from their homes in Ujo and Ekpoma. A school girl 2 years ago died in Efadion, Urumi, on her way to school due to erosion uncontrollably flooding. It is difficult to construct roads to Udo community because of wide erosion gully. This trend is all over the entire senatorial district.
Appeal to distinguished Senate.
Still on infrastructure, Senator Tony Nwonye sponsored a motion on the urgent need to reconstruct, rehabilitate the Onitsha 33 Otuocha Adani Road boundary to Enugu State. It is told that the road connects many agrarian communities in the southeast known for mass production of rice, yam, cassava and potato, adding that leaving it in its present state of dilapidation may impede food production with its attendant food scarcity and loss of revenue to the government.
This road has dilapidated, thereby leading to loss of lives and properties. The project is under the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, but has not been awarded because of the paucity of funds. Hence, the need for placement of funding to be financed through the NMCA Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme.
I want to urge the Senate, especially as these motions keep coming in, Mr. President, for us to declare a special day for us to look at this issue of infrastructural development in our various constituencies and senatorial zones.
Also presented was a motion on the urgent need to arrest the incessant sea incursion ravaging Ayetoro community in Ondo State, located on the Atlantic coast in Ilaje local government area of Ondo State. According to the sponsor, Senator Jim Ibrahim, the community is faced by this challenge despite its oil-producing status, which accounts for 5.4% of the 60,000 barrels per day of Ondo State's crude oil production output, which amounts to about 3.7% of Nigeria's total oil production.
The Ayetoro is at the verge of being completely lost to the sea if nothing is done urgently, and there is more prolonged. They are pregnant because residents are gradually losing hope, in fact massively losing hope, and they are alluded to the fact that many years of investment have disappeared. This continues inhuman situation, human secured situation where community once fully had swayed may soon be an illusion that history may be eroded and then the complete human race might disappear to the threat of the ocean.
The summary of this motion is calling for the senators here present to come to the aid of Ayetoro, because very soon Ayetoro will be swallowed by the rampaging Atlantic Ocean. So I look at this motion as a save our soul motion, and I think it is a matter of urgency, Mr. President, not only because they also produce oil, but because they are Nigerians and they are human beings.
When we look at all the things we've been doing in the last 2 weeks here, everything has to do with erosion and global warming. What is happening is simply that there's a contest between the water in the sea and the land. And it does appear that if we are not careful, the water will win this battle. This indeed should be a national emergency. And all the resources at our disposal as a people must be directed from all relevant agencies towards finding a long and lasting solution to this problem.
The private sector should be called upon to come in, to assist in view of the strategic importance of this very community. It's an oil producing area. The oil is the mainstay of our economy. So let's not restrict our intervention to federal government or NDDC alone. The private sector should come in.
Some of the resolutions adopted on all the motions are: urge the collaboration of federal agencies, namely Federal Ministry of Environment, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, as well as Ecological Fund Office, to work towards tackling these challenges.
The program is Inside the Senate, and we are reporting proceedings of the Senate in the week spanning 17th to 21st July 2023. Senator Abdulaziz Adua, coming under matters of urgent public importance last week, requested investigation into the alleged killing of innocent persons by some officers of the Nigerian Custom Service in Katsina State. For a report on these and other matters, let's take our next report as compiled and presented from our studio.
That some officers of the Nigerian Custom Service.
The motion by Senator Abdulaziz Adua was titled Urgent Need to Investigate the Abuse of Firearms in Katsina State. He spoke on how the abuse affected some of his constituents.
On 3rd February 2022, ordered the Nigerian Custom Service to pay 390 million naira as compensation to families of 10 victims that were killed and 13 others injured in GBA local government area of Katsina State. Further disturbed that on 13th July 2023, the Chief of Staff to the Katsina State Governor, Alhaji Jabir Sauri, had a narrow escape from a harrowing assault from Nigerian Customs Service officials. In September 2021, personnel of the Nigerian Customs Service shot at the convoy of the former Katsina State Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Alhaji Umar Gojo, while driving from Daura to my Adwa local government area of Katsina State. The inability to checkmate this recurring abuse of firearms by officers of the Nigerian Customs Service might lead to further loss of innocent lives and possibly reprisal attacks by angry civilians.
The motion attracted the following comments.
I believe that whoever is given a bullet, just one bullet, whether it is customs or police or any armed forces or security agencies, must account for that bullet. The issue is there must be reward and sanctions for those that have killed or maimed people. There must be consequences.
It is just about rice, sir. It is rice. The major people who actually do the racketeering are not being watched. Those smugglers, those full-time smugglers are seen and known, but nobody apprehends them. Nobody even arrests them. Nobody even calls them to question. But the few ones that goes to around the border, get one bag of rice, are killed. And that's why this motion becomes very, very important.
This Senate must rise to the occasion, not only for the loss of lives, but the loss of livelihood of our people in different parts of the country, regardless of whether you share borders with other countries or you are even within towns.
The custom officers are not allowed to shoot and kill. They are allowed to shoot the tires and, if possible, stop the vehicle that is carrying the prohibited item or uncustomed item. While I commend the mover of the motion, we have to also state what the customs are doing. They are doing their best to protect our borders. They are doing their best to protect our local industries. Because right now, the poultry industry is being threatened. Even rice processing and even rice farmers their bills written.
The following resolutions were adopted on the motion: condemn the indiscriminate killing of innocent and unarmed citizens by officers of the Nigerian Custom Service, urge the Nigerian Custom Service to fish out the erring officers for disciplinary action, and constitute an ad hoc committee to investigate the matter and recommend solutions. Still at plenary last week, Senate President Godswill Akpabio read a letter from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu requesting for the confirmation of retired Major General Paul Tarfa and 10 others as chairman and members of the governing board of the Northeast Development Commission (NEDC).
While hoping that the request will receive the usual expeditious consideration of the Senate, please accept the distinguished senators and the Senate President the assurances of my highest consideration. This is signed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
A petition was also presented by Senator Nat'l on behalf of the family of 2-year-old boy allegedly shot and killed by officers of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) in Asaba, Delta State on the 13th of July 2023.
The summary of the petition is for the Senate to investigate this unlawful and brutal killing of an innocent soul of Honora Seba and the brutal shooting in the eye of his 1-year-old boy, 1-year-old brother.
The petition was referred to the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges.
We will take our profile segment next as we unveil to you the person of the Senate Whip. Please stay tuned.
Senator Ali Ndume, the Chief Whip of the 10th Senate, was born in Goza, Borno State on the 20th of November 1959. He obtained his first school leaving certificate in 1972 from Gadamayo Primary School, Goza. He attended Comprehensive Secondary School Mobi, where he obtained his West African School Certificate, WASC, in 1978. At the tertiary level, Senator Ndume attended Kaduna Polytechnic for an OND in 1980 and a HND in 1982, all in marketing. He pursued a career in academics and rose to the rank of senior lecturer. Later in 1988, Senator Ali Ndume won the USAID postgraduate scholarship to study business and computer education at the University of Toledo in Ohio, USA, where he obtained a Bachelor of Education and a Master of Education. He joined politics and won election to the House of Representatives, serving 2 terms from 2003 to 2007 and 2007 to 2011, representing Chibok, Damboa, Goza Federal Constituency under AMPP. He then won elections to the Senate in 2011, 2015, 2019, and 2023 to represent Borno South Senatorial District. He is now the Senate Whip of the 10th Senate. His focus in the Senate is: his legislative interests are security, education, and agriculture.
This brings us to the end of this episode of Inside the Senate. Please continue to send in your comments, questions and suggestions to help the 10th Senate perform optimally for the good of the country. Do join us next week for another edition, and thanks for watching.